I still remember how Mom smelled, something soft, like vanilla and cinnamon. She hugged me every morning, even if she was late for work. Even when I was mad at her for putting too much broccoli in my lunch, she'd smile and hug me anyway. And then she was just gone. Cancer. That was the word the adults whispered, like saying it out loud would somehow make it worse. I didn't understand why she stopped brushing my hair in the mornings, why she started spending more and more time in bed, why Dad started looking at me like I reminded him of something that hurt too much. After the funeral, our house became silent. Not peaceful silent, empty silent. I'd talk, but my own voice sounded like it didn't belong anymore. I tried to make Dad smile, drew him cards, brought him coffee, even made scrambled eggs after watching a cooking video on YouTube. He'd smile a little, but not like before. A few months later, he said he had a new friend. I froze. A friend. The word sounded dumb, like some adult game was being played, and I was the only one who didn't know the rules. Emma, this is Susan, he said one night, introducing her at our door. She was beautiful. Too beautiful. Perfect skin, perfect nails, perfect fake smile. She bent down and kissed my cheek, and I remember thinking she didn't smell like cinnamon. She smelled like someone else's house. A few weeks later, Dad said they were getting married. I sat on the couch, clutching the TV remote like it was an anchor. He kept talking like he was reading from a greeting card. We all need a fresh start. This will be good for all of us. I didn't know who us was anymore. The wedding was small. I wore a white dress I didn't pick out. Susan laughed, kissed my dad, played the perfect bride. I stood there, awkward and silent, holding my aunt's hand, one of the few people who still hug me like Mom used to. When we got back home, I noticed the first change. Mom's portrait was gone. I ran upstairs. Her hairbrush gone. Her silk robe gone. All her makeup. Everything. It was like she had never lived there. That night, I asked Dad, "Where's Mom's stuff?" He didn't meet my eyes. Susan said it might help you moving on. It's better not to be reminded, sweetie. I didn't answer. I just went to my room, buried my face in my pillow, and for the first time, I felt like I didn't live here anymore. It started small. One morning, I left my sneakers by the front door, just like I always had when Mom was alive. Susan looked at them like they were dog poop. "Do I look like your maid, Emma?" I didn't answer. I didn't know if she was joking or not. She picked up my sneakers and hurled them into the laundry room. "Put your garbage where it belongs." I flinched but stayed quiet. That was the first spark. The match hadn't lit yet, but it was in her hand. The next week, my laundry disappeared. Not all of it, just mine. Dad's shirts were washed, folded neatly. Susan's clothes hung perfectly in the closet. Mine, still in the hamper, smelling, stained. I asked quietly, "Did the laundry machine break?" She laughed. "No, I just figured a 12-year-old should learn how to wash her own dirty socks." When I told her I didn't know how, she snapped. "Well, maybe you should have asked your real mom." Oh, wait. That night, I cried in the bathroom with the water running, so she wouldn't hear. Meals changed next. She cooked dinner every night, meatloaf, chicken pasta, baked salmon. The house smelled amazing. But when I sat down to eat, she'd look at me like I'd made a mistake. "This is for me and your father." She handed me a plate with 2 plain crackers and a slice of cheese. Not even warmed. Kids who lie and disrespect their stepmothers don't get steak. I never lied. I never disrespected her. I just existed. When Dad was home, she played her role. Perfect wife. Caring bonus mom. She'd ruffle my hair, ask about school, offer me dessert in front of him. But the second the door closed behind him, silence, cold eyes, sarcasm dripping from every word. Once, she caught me watching cartoons on the couch. "Emma, you're 12. Why are you watching baby shows?" She took the remote and switched to the news. Another time, I left my homework on the table. She shredded it with the paper cutter and said, "Oops, you should really be more organized." When I asked if we could visit Mom's grave, she smiled sweetly and said, "She's not there, sweetheart. Just bones in the dirt. Let's not get morbid." I stared at her in disbelief. She just sipped her wine. I started writing in a journal. I wrote everything. How she'd whisper insults when Dad wasn't home. How she'd throw away my lunch and say, "Maybe hunger will make you more grateful." How she took down Mom's last photo and replaced it with a framed quote that read, "New beginnings require letting go." One day, I came home from school and saw my journal in the trash. A red sharpist scrawled across the cover. So dramatic. That night, I locked myself in my room, turned off the lights, and cried into my pillow until my chest ached. I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry. No one believed me. No one saw it. And the worst part? I was starting to wonder if maybe I was the problem. I couldn't keep it in anymore. I had to tell someone. Dad was my only chance. So one night after dinner, when Susan went upstairs for her bath ritual, I followed him into his office. He was typing, eyes glued to his screen, lit only by his desk lamp. I stood in the doorway, my palms sweaty. "Dad." He glanced up. "Hey, kiddo. Everything okay?" I hesitated. Then, quietly, "Can I talk to you?" He closed his laptop. "Of course. Sit." I sat on the edge of the chair across from him, gripping the arms so hard my knuckles turned white. "I don't think Susan likes me," I whispered. He smiled, like I'd said something cute. "Oh, honey, she's just adjusting. It's hard for everyone." "No, Dad. She's mean to me. When you're not here. She says awful things. She throws out my food. She ripped up my homework. He raised a hand gently. "Emma, Susan loves you. She tries so hard. You just need time to bond." I shook my head. "She threw away Mom's photo. She made me eat crackers while you two had steak." Dad sighed. "Emma, Susan told me you've been acting distant. She's trying to connect, but you keep shutting her out." "No," my voice cracked. "That's not true. She's pretending in front of you. She hates me, Dad. And then I made a mistake. I said, sometimes I wish Mom was still alive. You never would have married her." The room went still. Dad's face darkened. "Emma, don't talk like that. I'm telling the truth." He stood up. "You're hurting her on purpose. I won't have you speaking that way." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Why won't you believe me?" And then I heard her. Susan, leaning against the doorway, arms crossed. "I told you," she said sweetly, she's still grieving. "Maybe therapy would help." Dad turned to her, then looked back at me. His eyes were full of something I couldn't recognize. Not anger, not disappointment, just exhaustion. "Go to your room, Emma." "But now." I cried myself to sleep that night. The next morning, my backpack was emptied. My journal, my homework, my sketchbook gone. In the trash. My toothbrush was missing. My pillow replaced with a flat, itchy one. My favorite hoodie, the one Mom gave me, vanished. I went to the fridge. My lunch was missing again. In its place, a note on the counter. "Maybe gratitude is more filling." I stood in the kitchen, shaking, hungry and helpless. At school, I stayed quiet. My teacher asked if everything was okay. I smiled and nodded. Because what could I say? That my stepmom was slowly erasing me? No one would believe me, just like Dad didn't. When I got home that day, Susan was already waiting. "Your teacher called. Said you seemed sad." She smiled. "Keep telling stories, Emma, and I'll make sure your dad thinks you need medication. You want that? A little hospital stay. I stared at her, frozen. Then she leaned in and whispered, "Daddy loves me now. Not her. Not you. Me." She walked away, leaving her perfume behind, sweet, artificial, suffocating. I stood in the hallway, fists clenched, vision blurry. Something inside me shifted. She wanted to break me, but I wasn't going to let her win. It started with lipstick. One shade too bold. A deep red, definitely not Susan's usual pale gloss. I noticed it smeared slightly on her blouse collar one morning. She was humming in the kitchen, dancing as she packed lunch. For herself, not for me. She didn't know I was watching. I remembered that blouse. She only wore it once before. On a night she said she was visiting a sick friend. Dad was working late, and I was left eating dry cereal for dinner. But that night she came back late, smiling, hair slightly messy, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. Something clicked. Over the next few days, I started watching her more closely. She'd get dressed up when Dad wasn't home. Red nails, heels, spritz of perfume, always with the same excuse. Going out to see Lacey. Girls' night. But Lacey lives 2 hours away. I know because I looked her up. Then I found her phone, left charging in the kitchen. I didn't mean to snoop. Not really. But it buzzed. A name I didn't recognize. Jason Kissmark. I opened the thread. Can't wait to see you again tonight. Miss those lips. Wish I could wake up next to you instead. My heart stopped. She was cheating on Dad. Lying. And suddenly everything made sense. I knew I had to prove it. But I also knew no one would believe just my words. So I planned. One Saturday morning, Susan said she'd be gone for the night. Lacey's having a mini spa weekend, she chirped. I nodded, pretended I believed her. But I followed. Not in a car, I'm 12. I biked. Slowly. Quietly. She took an Uber from the corner. I waited, then followed on my bike down the blocks. It was risky, stupid, but my anger gave me power I didn't know I had. She got out at a hotel. Not a nice one. Cheap. Red neon sign. I hid my bike behind a dumpster and crept closer. I saw her meet him. A tall man. Dark jacket. Beard. They kissed. Like it wasn't a secret. Like it was normal. I took out my phone. My hands were shaking, but I recorded everything. Zoomed in. 1 minute. Then 2. That night, I barely slept. I watched the video 10 times. I saved it in 3 different folders. I emailed it to myself. I even printed a few still frames at school the next day. When I got home, Susan was back. She was radiant, like her evil had been washed away by a warm bubble bath of betrayal. School okay? She asked, sipping tea. I smiled. For the first time in months, I smiled right back. Yeah, really good. That night, I wrote a letter. Dear Dad, you said you wanted honesty. Here it is. Please watch the video. It's not edited. It's not a lie. It's the truth. I'm not trying to ruin things. I'm trying to save you. Asterisk, asterisk. I folded the letter. Put it and the USB drive in an envelope. Slid it under his office door. Then I waited. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the crack under Dad's office door, imagining the moment he'd find the envelope. Imagining his hands trembling as he pulled out the flash drive. Imagining his face changing. I woke up early. The envelope was gone. My heart raced. At breakfast, everything looked normal, too normal. Susan poured coffee. Dad sat at the table, reading his tablet. But he wasn't reading. He hadn't touched his cup. He didn't look up. Susan chatted like always. Emma, don't forget your science folder today. Mr. Carter said you forgot it last week. I didn't answer. I watched Dad. He looked blank. Not angry. Not confused. Just processing. He didn't say a single word the whole meal. After school, I came home and went straight to my room. The house was too quiet. No music from Susan's phone. No sound of the vacuum. No fake humming. Then I heard footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Dad's. He knocked on my door. Emma, can we talk? My hands clenched, but I nodded. He stepped inside, holding the envelope. He sat on the edge of my bed like it physically hurt him. I watched it, he said. My mouth was dry. And he looked down. I'm sorry. 2 words. Small, but huge. I should have listened. I didn't want to believe any of it. I thought I was doing what was best for you, for all of us. He shook his head. But I failed you. A tear rolled down my cheek. Not from sadness. From relief. Are you going to leave her? Before he could answer, Susan barged in. She looked at the envelope in his hand. At me. And she knew. Her face shifted from concern to fury in a split second. Oh, I see what this is, she spat. You believe her? A child over your wife. Dad stood up. Calm. But his voice cut like ice. You're not my wife anymore. She laughed. Because of some pixelated video and a little drama queen. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just said, get out. She stared at him. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at me like she wanted to slap me, then turned and stormed out. We heard her heels hitting the floor. The front door slammed. Silence. Dad sat back down. covered his face with his hands. I let her into our lives, Emma. I let her hurt you. You didn't know. I should have known. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo. Faded. Worn. It was Mom. I found this in the back of my drawer. She would have seen through Susan in a second. I smiled. It was the first real smile I'd had in months. Can we put it back on the wall? I asked. He nodded. Yeah, it's time. The next morning felt strange. The house was quiet again, but not the same kind of quiet I'd lived in for months. Not sharp, not cold, just peaceful. No high heels clacking on the tile. No artificial perfume choking the air. No more whispered threats. No more fear. I came downstairs expecting to find Dad buried in his laptop or already gone to work. Instead, he was in the kitchen, making pancakes. He looked up when he saw me and smiled. Not a polite smile, not a fake one. A real one. Hungry, he asked. I nodded. He slid a plate toward me. It was a little burnt, but perfect in its own way. I used your mom's recipe, he said, a little quietly. I blinked. My throat tightened. It had been so long since he mentioned her. She'd be proud of you, you know, he said. Of how strong you are. I looked down at my plate, then back at him. Are you okay? He paused, then said, Not really. But I will be, because I still have you. That afternoon, we brought out the box from the attic, the one Susan tried to get rid of. Inside were old photos, Mom's perfume, the blue silk robe, a birthday card I made for her when I was 6. Dad picked up one photo and stared at it for a long time. I was scared to remember her, he said. It hurt too much. But forgetting her hurt you. He looked at me. I'll never let that happen again. We put the photo back up in the hallway. The one of her laughing, with her arm around me at the beach. For the first time in months, the house felt like ours again. Weeks passed, and the weight slowly lifted. I started drawing again. Not just dark things, real things. Birds, sunlight, a girl standing on a cliff with her arms wide open. Dad came home earlier. He asked about school, listened to my stories. We made movie nights a thing again. And one evening, he brought home a small white box. Inside was a silver chain. It had a charm on it, tiny, heart-shaped. On the back was engraved, You were always the light. He looked nervous. I know it's not much, but I wanted you to have something just yours. Just for me. I couldn't speak. I just hugged him. Tight. And even now, when some nights are still hard, when I hear echoes of her voice in my head, I touch the charm around my neck and remember. She's gone, but I'm still here. And I am no longer invisible.